Welcome to Race War, episode 276. Coming to you a little late, as is our unfortunate habit, which means we do have quite a bit of content for you today.
Yep.
So, Nolsey and I guess we'll get straight into it. And we're going to talk about our delightful First Nations relatives, let's say, cousins. So we thought we'd start off talking about who has been referred to as Kumanjayi Little Baby. So this was it? I can't remember how old the child was. Pretty young.
It was
like
single digits. Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely single digits.
And if you're wondering, like I was, why is it that all these abos are called Kumanjayi all the time? Well, it's not actually their real name. You see, abos have this peculiar thing about when you die. You know, there's all these weird kind of rules you're supposed to apply. So, that's why when you watch TV and there might be images of an Aboriginal person who has since died, they have to put a warning up there. Aboriginal people are not supposed to look at films of them or photographs or anything after they're dead. I don't know if that also relates to. Do you remember Aborigines said that they would say that they didn't want their photograph taken because the photo would steal their soul or something like that?
I've heard that a handful of times. I'm not how much of this stuff is post-colonial performative as well.
Right.
Yeah,
so look, Kumanjayi does not mean dead abo or something. It's just a placeholder name that they use. It's referring to people as John Smith or something like that. Because, this was the third time I had heard of a dead Aboriginal referred to as Kumanjayi. Or this time it's Kumanjayi Little Baby. I thought, what the fuck kind of name is that for a child? But no, it's not it's not the real name. Anyway, this girl was abducted from what we call a remote community in the Northern Territory by a 47-year-old man who has since been apprehended by the police. Not before his own community apprehended him, though. So police put out wanted photos of the guy, and he was recognized. So he got a bit of tribal punishment, I guess you could say. He was severely bashed by members of his own community, and then eventually he was brought into hospital because, severely bashed. They were demanding that there was a whole bunch of feral abos outside the hospital demanding that he be handed back over to face a bit more tribal punishment. I was just thinking I wouldn't really care if that's the way they wanted to do it. They already got to do it to an extent, though. They apparently beat him bad enough. Not so bad, though, that they said that he was fit for trial and fit for jail. So
yeah, I was going to say look, they caught this guy dead to rights. I can completely fucking believe it because this is what Tuesday is in the Northern Territory. I completely believe that this happened. And if the fucking the Indigenous community wants to send this guy out, how the antagonist goes out in every zombie movie, then yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him getting ripped limb from limb by a 40+ sized mob. Well, literally a mob.
Well, look, and the other thing was they smashed up several police vehicles as well, and just they do what they normally do when they chimp out. It was a very kind of abo chimp out that they did. There was nothing surprising about it. I would just say that if there is anything surprising about it, it's that they were actually genuinely upset about the death of an infant because infanticide has a long, terrible history in
Oh yeah.
Aboriginal Australia. Um, this, it may not be so common nowadays, but certainly before Europeans came here, it was something that they did all the time. It was a pretty common practice. Quadrant has a lot of stuff on this. So I was reading one article where uh, they said that one of the reasons why infanticide happens so often was simply because of the fact that Aborigines are a nomadic people. They kind of consume the resources of one area and then they move on. And if you've got a number of children, that can be a bit of a burden. And some mothers were known to just, dash the brains of an Aboriginal child. In other words, smash their heads.
Yep.
And when, the British started observing this, they were amazed by like the reasons the women would give. So they would range from things like, "Oh, they're too heavy," like I've got too much stuff to carry, and then another one was too much cry from that one. In other words, the baby cried too much and it was irritating, so the mother just killed it.
I still remember that one controversial interview. So this is from the late '90s, and I think this was actually like originally recorded in the early '90s, but like basically was put on ice until people demanded it. And it was the interview with the last like uncontacted Aboriginal family unit, and she even said that. I was like, yeah, basically like I didn't really know it at the time, but yeah, my fucking father was probably going to kill me next summer coming around.
Yeah. Also, like, think of all the ones that we don't hear about. I
Oh yeah.
mean, this is one that obviously has gotten a lot of media attention. Um, I mean, even Jacinta Price talks about how her mother gave birth under a tree. Well, think of the amount of other Aboriginal women who give birth, not in a hospital, but just out in, these remote communities or whatever. And they either kill the child or the child dies because it's not receiving the kind of medical treatment it would in a hospital. Um, it's a very
Yeah,
common.
Stone Age infant mortality rates.
Right, right.
That's across the board, by the way. Like every time we do a genetic sample, like a large scale genetic sample of human beings, and compare it to like archaeological records of like what was the average diversity of this, what was the average genetic diversity, but through like variances in like skeleton shape and whatever. We keep finding that there's like periods like pre-Neolithic where it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, like just from these records, like only about fucking 10% of supposed children would have survived into their teens.
Right. Well, I mean, this is also part of Edward Dutton's spiteful mutant theory. I don't know if
Mm,
you're familiar with that, but he basically says that like because infant mortality is effectively zero now, or at least in civilized society, that means that a lot of spiteful mutants who would have otherwise have died previously are going on to live and to propagate and pass on their genes. And so he claims that that actually accounts for like the nuttiness that you see on both the political left and the political right.
yeah.
Uh, I know JF, French JF, who liked to take his wife on a mysterious trip that she never returned from. He doesn't agree with that. So I don't know, and I'm certainly not much of a biological science guy, so I'm really not sure what position I take on all of that.
I mean, to be
Uh,
fair, that's more so evolutionary theory.
but I mean, there is definitely something about how like we've sort of turned the rules of natural selection around because it used to be a case that more children meant like economic advantage for the parents because like you had more workers, like say on a farm, whereas nowadays, having children is a burden, a financial burden. that is.
Mm.
So more intelligent people tend not to have children. And this is, well, actually, why am I even explaining this? You guys have probably seen Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. Yep.
Yeah, I'm basically just describing what happens in that movie. So
I'd like to remind everyone that they only got away with making Idiocracy in the time they did because like the all the idiots were white presenting up until like God, what was his name? Terry Crews.
Yeah, but remember in the movie though, they had the House of Representing.
Yep.
And the president was a black guy. So
just a professional
that,
wrestler.
That is something I think they would not have gotten away with if they were to make it now.
Oh fuck no, not now. Yeah.
So yeah, like what I'm saying is like, yeah, this is not like atypical abo behavior. I'm sorry, like killing their own children is not something really out of the ordinary.
No.
And so, yeah, so that was the only thing that surprised me about it was like the fact that they chimped out that much, because I didn't think it would be that much of an irregular occurrence to them. But I don't know. Now, look, they've had to do the usual things like they ordered bottle shops to be closed. They also limited their opening hours on other days.
Hey, remember Riot Juice from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they literally just mix vodka and Gatorade? Yeah, alcohol is kind of riot fuel.
Well, don't they use the Gatorade to like grow crops in Idiocracy?
Yeah,
because it has electrolytes in it. Yeah. So Matt Canavan, the New Nationals leader, he was basically using this whole ruckus to talk up like the Howard government's intervention in the Northern Territory back in 2006, I think it was. Because he says, look, we can go on about all these closing the gap metrics and the billions of dollars that we spend in the Aboriginal industry, but we tend to just ignore some of the more blatant problems that exist. And that includes things like child sexual abuse, rampant violence, and yes, even killing children. Now, the problem I have with what Canavan's talking there is that actually means even more government intervention. You know, I mean, that's what it was called. It was the intervention, like the Howard government intervention. You know, and this is the real irony of the conservative take on the Aboriginal problem in Australia, is that if you would actually implement their program, they are advocating an enormous use of government resources and money and time, because it was effectively a military intervention in the Northern Territory. So, you know, the party of small government and of minimizing government intervention are saying that when it comes to Aborigines, no, we need to like
put them in a zoo and everything but name.
Yes.
Literally, that's the only solution. He was like literally just putting these people in fucking zoos. Because it's like time and time again, it's like they can't be self-responsible, they can't self-govern, and then when you give them X amount of like autonomy, you get literal baby murder. So I'm sorry. Zoo time.
That's right. And that's why many Aboriginal elders themselves call for things like dry zones and even banning pornography, because a lot of the time they like to copy the kind of things that they see in porn, and all too often they like to do it with children as well. That they found in the intervention. They had to stop them watching all this fucking disgusting porn because they were simulating it with often with their own fucking children. Now, at the same time, people are pointing the finger at the country Liberal Party, saying that despite the fact that they are this tough law and order government, Things like this are still happening. Well, look, you can't have it both ways. People keep criticizing them over taking a no bullshit approach here. But of course, they're not going to be able to stop every single bloody crime.
Yeah.
And, because of the fact that the Northern Territory is a territory, meaning it has pretty limited capacity to collect tax and pass a budget deficit, they rely on the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth is not giving them near enough money to have the kind of facilities that they need, and also obviously the police that they need to go out and police these areas. And there's obviously just a shortage too, because no one wants to do it. Who wants
that's what
to patrol these Abo communities?
they're basically threatening New South Wales Metro cops, basically being like, "Yeah, you either go to the Northern Territory and take your lumps, kid. Otherwise, like, good luck not getting promoted forever and/or getting kicked off the force." Because remember when we covered that, like, just years ago now at this point.
Yeah, and the ones that are actually serving in like Melbourne and Sydney, they're getting them from England or from
Oh
Ireland.
yeah. That's an odd phenomena. But yeah, no, we talked about that recently, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's another thing that they've been doing for years. That's why so often I hear cops with like a Pommy accent, because they're imported. Okay, now at the moment there is a federal inquiry into youth justice incarceration. Now this is Australia wide, and so they've been having hearings in all the capital cities, and they recently went to Darwin. But the Country Liberal Party in Darwin did not participate in it. They sat it out. The reason why is basically they have their own programs that they're running, and they saw no point. And I got to say, I agree. I mean, how many of these bloody inquiries do we have? And what do they ever actually achieve? Next to nothing. Crime has actually gone backwards in the Northern Territory ever since Chief Minister Finocchiaro won the election. They still have high crime levels, of course, considering that, about 30% of the territory is of Indigenous background.
Yeah.
So obviously it's always going to be a problem. But yeah, does anyone really think that if Labor were in power, that this wouldn't have happened? I mean, come on.
Oh fuck no! This is just nature, man. This is just the lay of the land, the characteristics.
I mean, remember this in particular. This happened in Alice Springs, and remember, Albo had to do his own kind of Northern Territory intervention by flying into Alice Springs and pleading with the then Labor Chief Minister to reinstate the dry zones and the police patrols of all of these communities, because all of that came to an end when the Howard government intervention expired. So yeah, I mean, those policies are still with us to this day. The military doesn't operate there, but the same kind of restrictions on alcohol and porn and that kind of thing. A lot of those communities still operate that way.
Yeah, well, because I mean, we covered it extensively at the time. It's because they just fucking have to.
Of course.
They just have to, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, they want to live with the fantasy that they can live high agency lives just like white people can. But what happens when you actually do leave them to their own devices? Well, they start fucking and killing their children.
They start making the fucking that one scene in Event Horizon look like a fucking joke. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yes, you're right. So look, considering we're talking about abos, we might as well cover our crime section as well before we move on.
Yep.
So this is about the watch houses. So I mentioned before that we have a shortage of prison facilities. Well, part of how they deal with that is that they get people in for long-term stays in the watch houses, which is where you go when you get arrested. Now, like ordinarily, you're not supposed to spend any longer than like a couple of days in a watch house. You get your charges, you apply for bail, all that kind of thing, and you leave. But in the Northern Territory, we're talking about people who actually spend like weeks at a time there. Now, the Northern Territory government is being accused of renaming parts of a Darwin watch house to make it look like it's not really a watch house. So the North Australian
some
Aboriginal
bureaucratic
Justice
shittery.
Agency, NAJA, which is just one of the many bodies we have about abos, has accused the government of renaming parts of Darwin City Watch House to the Darwin Transitional Custody Centre. And so that's how they can continue to house people for weeks on end instead of just a few days. But look, again, what's the alternative? You just let them go and they go out and commit more crime? I mean, I think they should be in jail. And yes, I know that it does cost a lot of money to house people in jail, but it is better than the alternative. And also, I would just say, if you add sterilization to the mix, well, long term, this would actually be a huge money saver. You need to stop these people from reproducing and producing future criminals. Because that's what they do. Talking about idiocracy again, I mean, who are the people who always have lots and lots of children nowadays? It's not high
it's
agency.
Not the quiet calculators.
Right.
It's not the people who are saving up so they make it through winter. No, it's the low impulse people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, ever since World War II, eugenics became a dirty word. We're not allowed to talk about things like that, and we're paying the price for it. All right, so let's go on to the Anti-Semitism and Social Cohesion Royal Commission. So the interim report has been completed and published. They're also now doing public hearings. That's the next phase of the Royal Commission. So we'll go through the interim report first. So they found that there were no gaps in legal or regulatory frameworks affecting the ability of authorities to prevent or to respond to the Bondi terror attack. So look, it's often pointed out that the Jewish groups involved in this Hanukkah celebration at Bondi Beach, they had made requests for a larger police presence there.
Yeah.
Now, no doubt they have been getting that ever since, and they will continue to. Security grants is one of the most popular ways of fleecing the government. Jewish groups demand these large sums of cash that they call security grants. So people are saying, well, okay, there was no reason basically why the authorities couldn't provide more security. But in the circumstances of the time, I guess the police were just, they didn't think.
Yeah, I don't fucking care. Use your security grants you get fucking literally tens of millions of each year for it. Fuck you.
Right. Well, right. That was the other thing I was thinking. I was like, hold on. Like, why haven't you actually provided this yourself? I mean, a lot of people have recently learned that Jews have their own private ambulance service, for example. Well, if you've got these massive security grants, surely you should be paying for your own security. So yeah, I don't get like why on the one hand you want a massive police presence, which it comes at the expense of the taxpayer, but also you get these huge grants to pay for private security that never seem to turn up. Could it be
Yeah,
because they're actually spending that money on something else?
I was gonna say it's not like they're making invoices for that shit and then just pocketing the cash, right? That wouldn't be the case, would it, Finian?
No. All right. So the commissioner, Virginia Bell. Holy shit! Look at the nose on that woman.
Yeah.
Um, so she's made 14 recommendations, and well, Albo actually announced on the very morning that this report was produced that the government would implement all 14 of those recommendations. Dare I say they hadn't even read them yet? Okay, so I'll go through them one at a time. So, recommendation one: the procedures adopted by the New South Wales Police in respect of Operation Jewish High Holy Days should apply to other high risk Jewish festivals and events, particularly those that have a public facing element. Yeah. So, that is Operation Jewish High Holy Days. This was obviously some police operation where they had a high amount of officers on patrol. And so, well, this is just what I was saying before. They're going to get this from now on, aren't they? Like every like public Jewish event is just going to be covered with police. Okay, recommendation two. Having regard to the significance of the role of the Commonwealth Counter-Terrorism Coordinator in providing counter-terrorism leadership, the Commission recommends consideration be given to making the Counter-Terrorism Coordinator's role full-time. There you go.
Oh boy.
More government resources. Number three, if the Australia-New Zealand Counter-Terrorism Committee is to be used again as a crisis committee, it should be included in the Australian Government Crisis Management Framework so its role is clear. Number four, the Counterterrorism Handbook should be updated promptly and then at least every 3 years in coordination with updates to the counterterrorism plan. Number five, the Australia-New Zealand Counter-Terrorism Committee should provide direct advice in the form of a written and or oral briefing, at least annually, to National Cabinet, including, as appropriate, advice on the ANZCTC activities, the use of the Special Fund and national counter-terrorism challenges and priorities. Okay, look, I won't go through the rest. They're actually all pretty much related to the security centers, intelligence reports, things like that. And, well, actually, when you go to recommendation 8 onwards, they're redacted.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we get them eventually. But yeah, as of now, they're actually, wait, no, I'll go through. There are two at the end, though, that are not reacted. So the Commonwealth and states and territories should prioritise efforts to finalise and implement an updated and nationally consistent national firearms agreement. Recommendation 14, the Commonwealth, states and territories should prioritise efforts to implement the proposed national gun buyback scheme. Yeah, so they want to take your guns, and the ones that you do legally have, if you're lucky enough, those, along with the ammunition and any accessories, have to be registered with the National Firearms Agreement.
You're going to have to register them with your local rabbi, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, there was
Joking,
one
of
thing.
Course.
There was one thing that Sky News said about this report that I sort of believed in. So I've got the PDF open in front of me now. I'm going to do a Control F and I'm going to type in the word Islam. So it appears Why is my PDF going so bloody slow? 11 times. 11 times. And sometimes it's simply referring to Islamophobia. So there was actually very little in this about radical Islam being a motivator, uh, even though this is obviously off the back of the Bondi shooting, which, surely the two involved were what you would call radical Muslims. But yeah, there was very, very little in there. The focus is really just on police presence, intelligence, and taking our guns. That was the.
Yeah, I was gonna
that was
say, like, this shit isn't gonna be self-resolved until like you have like levels of security that as an Israeli settler has in like the West Bank, like.
Yeah,
and then they'll still want the security grants on top of that, man. Like it's that's where this has to go. You know, that's where this will go at least.
So look, another thing that surprised me about this, again, hitting Control F. If I type in NSN or even National Socialist, or even nationalist. Oh wait, no, the word nationalist appears once. So it says, ideologically motivated violent extremism, particularly nationalist and racist violent extremism, remains a threat, and its adherents will continue to engage in offensive behaviors. So that's actually a quote from Mike Burgess back in 2002. And might I add that since then, Mike Burgess has said that the so-called nationalist racist groups are not a threat. All they do is recruitment drives and training. He himself said,
Yep.
not a threat. But yeah, look, nonetheless, I was surprised. I thought that there was going to be a lot in here about like neo-Nazism and the extreme white right and stuff like that. But no,
I
not
think
really.
this because this is like, you know, an internal document and like it's a serious document. I think they realize they actually do need to be serious about their approach. I'm in the media. I mean, we just had a 60-minute segment on this shit where they can afford to not be entirely serious and when they can afford to not be entirely practical. Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, a lot
We'll
of
hear about it.
the hawkish Jews, they didn't like the idea of Virginia Bell being the commissioner here because she's considered to be too moderate. Um, she is, of course, a Jew. Just to take one look at her, it's very obvious. But the thing is, I'd say that the Albanese government is actually kind of being smart here. Because, I mean, we've talked a lot about how the Australian Jewish lobby, in comparison to, say, the American Jewish lobby, is extremely Zionist and right wing. You know, I mean, like
Yeah.
fire breathing, hawkish type Jews. Whereas in America, you get a lot more kind of left leaning Jews who say, you know, tone it down a bit, guys. You're making us look like
Fucking bloodthirsty psychopaths.
Yes. Yeah, and you see, if you ask me, that's actually a more rational Jewish strategy because, I mean, you know that for the first time since Israel's founding back in 1948, more Americans sympathize with Palestinians now than they do Jews and Israelis. Now, why is that? Well, look at what they've been doing since October 7. So, you know, the more liberal Jews are trying to say, hey, guys, you hawks, you fire-breathing Zionists, you're the ones creating a public relations nightmare for us. You are the reasons why our stature in the community is dropping like a stone.
Well, again, that's the problem that they're going to run into because you know what the problem with neurotic people is. They don't stop. They don't listen to reason. Even really from their own community. I don't think they'll stop even there.
Yeah. So I think if this report or this interim report seems somewhat timid right now, I'd say that's probably a deliberate tactic from the Albanese government and the Royal Commission itself, uh, in an attempt to make the Australian Jewish community look less extreme. That's what I think it's about.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yep. So, okay. Now, as I mentioned, they've started the public hearings now. This is the next phase of the Royal Commission. So this is effectively members of the Australian Jewish community giving testimony about how anti-Semitism in Australia is affecting them. So there was actually a guy.
Yep, here we go. Yeah, my microphone fucked it again.
Okay, so the second part or second phase of this Royal Commission is public hearings from Australian Jews. And it's just so that they can take the stand and talk about how traumatized they are by the surging levels of anti Semitism in Australia. So, did you see that guy who had the swastika on his t shirt? He was waiting outside. So, this guy had like a Star of David that looked like a swastika. So, it's not like he was out there promoting Nazism or something. He was
No, he
actually
was
just
doing
doing
the.
that thing where he's comparing Israel to the Nazis, which is a pretty
Yeah,
common tactic.
yeah, no, that's a left wing talking point, but
It
unfortunately,
is.
I don't think that piece of rhetoric's going to protect you, buddy. I think
No,
think
it's not.
certain laws still will apply.
Yeah, and I mean the swastika is illegal now. Um, I mean, I think he was in New South Wales, so it's actually illegal at two levels for him because it's a Commonwealth offence and a state offence. And the only way you can get around it is if you have a religious exemption. So if it's like the Hindu swastika, for example, um, in the form that he had, the Star of David, no, that's not going to get you off. No way. Now, nonetheless, he said that he didn't know that the swastika was illegal, but he tells us that he is a long-time anti-war protester. Well, okay, if you're an anti-war protester, I would say that you're politically engaged, and you say do things like read the news. Like, who the fuck doesn't know that? Who doesn't know? So I just don't believe him when he says that.
The problem is there's people who are just like hobbyists, activists, etc., like low information people, and people say like, okay, you got your rightoids, which is your low information, right leaning person. You also have your leftoids too. Trust me, there's still some people
Right.
who are clueless fucking hippies.
Yeah, so look, if he genuinely didn't know that it was illegal, well, that's even worse because he shows that he's just there for the ride. He's not actually genuinely politically engaged. He doesn't read into these issues. It's just like a trend. It's a bandwagon to jump on. And I think that's pathetic no matter what side of politics you're on. Um, he also said that he didn't know that the Royal Commission was occurring, like inside the building that he was outside of.
Okay,
Um,
bullshit.
yeah, I mean, I find that hard to believe as well. But no, he's going to have the book thrown at him for
Oh, of
that.
course.
Um, you know, and yeah, there's no way the Jews will let him escape when he pulled that stunt outside of the Anti-Semitism Royal Commission.
Oh yeah, no. It's he's gonna get charges stacked like menacing and and like incitement to hatred of a community just because of where he was on top of the symbolism.
Right, right. Okay, now something that Virginia Bell has talked about is that despite the fact that intelligence funding in Australia has increased by billions of dollars, apparently there is a shortfall in the share that's going towards counterterrorism. Um, I don't know about that. It
Yeah, I
might
was gonna
just
say
be
like,
where is that money being directed, though? Are we talking about, say, like ASIO surveillance of white nationalists? Because they spend a ton of money on that. Um, maybe the great irony is that they're not looking at Islamic extremism as closely as what they should be, because people are worried about Nazis instead. Um, even though Muslims are the ones who pick up the guns, not us. So
yeah,
if they're talking about it in that respect, well, yeah, maybe she does have a point. But I was just reading just before the show. I didn't really have time to look into this, but apparently Tony Burke is directing $74 million to ASIO to specifically target people who become radicalized online. So, people reading the wrong Telegram channels, that kind of thing.
I I love how on the ABC News shorts are like, oh yeah, $75 to spy on Australian citizens, and then literally like because they do these every single 15 minutes, the one 15 minutes after was monitor online radical extremists. They had to change the wording because it sounded so fucking bad.
Right. Okay, now they're also saying that we need to look back at the Howard years for inspiration when it came to counterterrorism measures. So, for those of you old enough to remember, back when September 11 happened, John Howard, of course, just went into full neocon mode, and he sent out fridge magnets to people with like a counterterrorism hotline phone number written on it that you could call. And there was these stupid ads on TV where they said like "be alert, not alarmed" and stuff like that. So when we got the fridge magnet, because I was still in school then, we wrote "return to sender" on the pack and put it back in the mail. A lot of people did that actually, but we're told that back in the Howard days, they would do what they referred to as match fitness exercises. So they would actually do like counterterrorism simulations. And one of the things that the Royal Commission found was that, well, we don't do those anymore. Do we really need to?
I was gonna say not particularly.
I don't think so. I mean,
Well, if there's enough upset going around, we might just end up with them anyway. So
yeah. Okay, so regarding the testimony, so we've had a few people who've taken a stand so far. So one of them is a so-called Holocaust survivor who said that Jews in Australia have become targets and that he is scared to wear his Star of David out in public.
oh, terrible.
So he said the last time he saw his mother, she had come out of hiding in Hungary to wish his grandfather a happy birthday. She was apparently caught and shot by the Nazis in 1944. And he said that he only survived because of the extraordinary courage of those around him as a little boy.
Okay, is this one of those just so stories?
Yeah, and look, there's plenty of other ones. They're saying that what was it? There was some like mother who said that her daughter was getting bullied at school, and the kids were doing things like throwing loose change at her feet to see if she would pick it up, stuff like
Did
that.
she?
Uh, well, look, I just don't believe that story in the first place. I don't think they were doing that. So, look, this just reminds me of Aboriginal truth telling. it's an Orwellian phenomenon. They're going up there and they're telling fucking bullshit, and everyone is expected to believe them.
Oh well, it's not like we haven't seen this 100 million fucking times.
Yeah. And the point that they just keep making is they are just so amazed and horrified that it's now happening in Australia. They're like, oh, we expected it in Hungary or wherever it was we came from, but we never ever thought that it would emerge in Australia, in our adopted country, and all this.
Terrible.
And, a lot of them have been saying like, oh, we don't know where we're going to go. That might be a genuine dilemma, actually. If you want to leave Australia, I don't know if going back to Israel is the best choice for you, considering that Israel has been kind of accelerating its own demise as of late. A lot of people are saying the state of Israel is going to be 110.
Yeah, well,
the most recent Jewish expulsion.
Well, that's to be specific about that. That's because of that one Orthodox community that basically takes every single benefit they possibly can and literally gives nothing back in the civil services that they expect for that country.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about Iran and fuel, all that good stuff. So the budget, of course, is coming up. It's only 5 days away, actually. 12th of May, we'll have it. So Ablo was saying that there is going to be more than $10.7 billion into bolstering fuel security. Now, this is despite the fact that some economists are warning of inflationary pressures. They don't want this to be like a high-spending budget. It's pretty hard when people are just demanding this on both sides of politics. So they're going to spend $3.2 billion to acquire and store about 1 billion litres of diesel and jet fuel supply, while requiring the private sector to increase minimum stock holdings by 10 days. So this apparently would lead to minimum petrol reserves increasing to 37 days, while diesel and jet fuel will be 50 days. Yeah, this sounds like stuff that probably should have happened long ago. Better late than never.
Yeah, I guess.
But, I'm just hoping that this, in combination with the energy demands of generative AI, is really going to kill the climate change movement.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Well, I mean, I scrolled ahead. I didn't see it when I was checking forwards, but are we going to cover the fact that New South Wales just removed their ban on processing nuclear fuel?
I didn't have that in the prep.
Nope, but yeah, that's brand new. That was today. Yep.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, no, what we said is happening. So yeah.
Yeah, it's accelerating now. So I kind of was of the view that, we would eventually have to turn to nuclear anyway, because there'd have to be some kind of tipping point where the general public just gets so sick of increasing electricity prices every time we add more green energy. There was going to be a point where people just got tired of that. Now, if there's anything good about AI and what's going on in Iran right now, it's that it's making people care a lot more about their fuel and electricity being cheaper. And, it's amazing. We have genuine debate in this country now about starting new oil refineries. Yeah. I mean, before the Iran war, there was no way that was going to happen. That was the last thing the government would be willing to talk about, actually opening a new refinery.
Well,
But
God, remember so many years ago when we were talking about like cost per kilowatt hour, and then they basically said like, oh, the lifespan of a solar thing, for this long, and they fudged the cradle to grave numbers to make it work and whatnot, and it's this much, and it turns out nuclear is more expensive because you actually have to go and build a plant, and then even though like we went through that, we hashed it all out. We said at the time, it's like, yeah, but like we're not expecting to see debate on this anytime soon. But yeah, no. Now we are.
hmm. No,
Give me a
and we're
second.
seeing people increasingly question the alliance with the United States. Uh, Obviously, support for Israel as well, like we already mentioned. Uh, and yeah, look, Albo was saying, he said recently that the United States is playing a different role in the world under President Donald Trump. Okay. And I heard James Patterson, the shadow defense minister, saying that Donald Trump is an unconventional president. I think that's saying
That's a way
enough.
of putting it.
Yeah, that's one way. So,
Tell us
Albo
what you
said
really
this.
think.
Yeah. The United States is playing a different role now. It has retreated from some of its previous positions on economic policy, for example, when it comes to protectionism and the imposition of tariffs. And that's a very different position from the historic pro market position that the United States has held. The fact that it made the decision without consulting allies to launch the war on Iran is a different position from where they've been historically. And the world is adjusting to that change. Yeah, so, the Iran war was, sort of took people by surprise, I guess. I mean, if we think back
Because I was
to Iraq,
incredibly spastic.
yeah, but I mean, the Iraq War, there was a very clear trajectory towards the initial operations there. It, certainly came as a surprise to no one. Um, I don't know if America did this because they thought it would preserve the element of surprise. I would say probably not, because the Iranian regime has been waiting for something like this all the way since 1979. So
Mm.
I don't think so. Um, and yeah, I mean, I remember thinking, maybe Kamala Harris would have been a better choice simply because of the fact that she may not have done what is going on right now in Iran. Uh, but
Uh,
the thing is, though, yeah, look, I don't know. That's questionable. I'm not sure. But the thing is, what's happening right now is like Trump is doing a lot of good things unintentionally. You know, he is accelerating the collapse of the Jewish state, and he is quite possibly accelerating the collapse of the American empire as well, um, through these catastrophic decisions that he has been making. So, call that accelerationism or whatever, or what you will, but you know, Trump may actually be the best president America has ever had uh, for these fuck ups, is what I'm saying.
well, yeah, no, definitely can see that. And unfortunately, I do struggle to separate the geopolitical interests of the American empire and the geopolitical interests of the Israeli state.
Yeah, I mean, Trump has forced a lot of conservatives to become anti Israel and anti Zionist.
Yep.
He's also sort of given the left the courage to finally say that Israel controls America rather than the other way around.
Yeah,
So,
we've harped on that a bit recently as well. But yeah, that's been quite surprising.
yeah. And, that means that Jews are losing allies on both sides of the political spectrum. And I think that is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, no, it's
Like,
going to be interesting to see how this ends up. Or it'll be interesting to see the season finale.
oh, yeah. Um, so, yeah, there was a senior Democrat from America on 7:30 the other day. Um, he said that Trump's criticism of Australia is unfair and causing harm to the US and its allies. So this guy, his name was Joe Courtney. Well, wow. I mean, you can say that again.
Yeah.
And Australia got off lightly. I mean, look at the kind of things he was saying about France and the UK.
Oh yeah. It's like, yeah, don't need you. Might just get out of NATO and fuck all of you off. And yeah, you didn't really support us during the Iraq-Afghan war. I was like, dude, fucking Jesus Christ.
Why would anyone want to?
Yeah. Yeah, thinking about it now, thinking about like, even if I was a war hawk back then, which I definitely fucking wasn't. Yeah, like, dude, fucking like how much death, how much suffering have you got for that region to basically go back into nativist hands?
Yeah. And I mean, you think about the Iraq war, like no one supported that.
Oh fuck no.
It was the so-called coalition of the willing, which was like America, Australia, the UK, and then a bunch of like fucking pissant, insignificant nations.
Yep.
Even the French, who had a right-wing government back then, I must remind people, even like the French right did not support the Iraq war. And, we're even in a state now where the Liberal Party here in Australia is effectively saying that the war needs to come to an end now. There is just no reason to continue it. Even if they say like some level of military operation was justified, none of them want it to continue.
Oh fuck no.
Okay.
Man.
All right. So I'm just looking. Some of this prep is a little outdated now, talking about the Strait of Hormuz and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, look. Last I heard was apparently there are talks of genuine negotiation going on this time, not Trump actually just making shit up, but apparently they are edging closer to a deal now, if you can call it that. Anyway, talking about fuel a bit more. So in Queensland, the government will unlock state-owned land near ports in Brisbane, Townsville, Mackay, Gladstone, Abbott Point, and Bundaberg for market tenders for oil storage facilities and even potential refineries. So
There we go.
This is actually happening. So councils are saying that the increased cost of fuel is driving up construction and service costs. Yep,
Of course it is.
We talked about that as well. Basically, everything is more expensive, okay? Because, well, we need fuel and electricity production for basically everything we do. So, literally everything is becoming more expensive. So, yeah, like civil construction firms are talking, particularly the price of diesel is driving material costs up, and it is forcing layoffs, project delays, sometimes even projects just shutting down entirely. Yeah, we've had mining companies just go bust since this war broke out. Now, builders are urging Labor to deliver targeted relief in the federal budget, saying that if they don't, a lot of these companies are simply going to go bust. So, according to this article from the ABC, they say almost half of civil contractors are considering reducing their workforce, and a third are looking to pause construction to get through the oil price shocks. Right. Even though we are always told that we apparently have a shortage of construction workers, now suddenly
No,
we're talking about laying them off.
that's interesting. That's going to be a whole bunch of completely skilled eyes and hands that are going to be out of work and down.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think the ETA is? Non-citizens get full access to benefits and housing relief.
Well, look, where do you think this is going? I mean, people are talking about, COVID era restrictions and even lockdowns to reduce energy consumption. I mean, I don't think we're going to go to that level.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. This situation is such a high level of flux that, like, I don't know. To be honest, it all depends on like if we can actually get industry going in a reasonable period of time. But just remember, like, you know, building companies go bust. If enough of them go bust, the building industry stops. And if it stops, it's hard to get started again. And
Yeah,
that plus we've got to there are more Indians, people of Indian descent in Australia than there are people of UK/English descent. So
right.
why do
But
you think they're all here? What do you think they're doing here?
economists also like point to construction and refer to it as a barometer of the economy. So
Yep.
if construction is doing badly, then the economy is either doing badly or is about to. And yeah, I think there is a lot of truth in that. So, but like the construction industry has not been doing well in Australia for years now. You know, I mean, this might have made the problem worse, but it's not like it's a recent thing.
I think it's been fucked since COVID, really. My personal opinion, at least.
It didn't recover.
No. Didn't have enough fucking time to.
No. Okay, well, let's talk about immigration now. The ISIS brides. So again, I was just kind of reading this before the show. So my understanding is that there have been 3 ISIS brides that have been arrested. So they landed in Sydney and Melbourne only a few hours ago, and the charges relate to terrorism, like being like an accessory to terrorism. But interestingly, they're also talking about slavery. So
Oh, yeah.
apparently, like their husbands were involved in the enslaving of Yazidi Christians, who are like a
Yeah.
Christian minority in the Middle East. So I think they're particularly concentrated in like Iraq and Syria. Um, and a lot of the time, if you look at them, they look like white people. A lot of the Yazidi Christians.
Yeah,
A
but
lot
so
of
do
people just,
Alawites.
yeah, they do. Um, some people just refer to them as like a white minority in the Middle East. So anyway, the media went absolutely apeshit over this, as you can imagine. Now it is worth pointing out, as much as I fucking hate Tony Burke, it is somewhat true that the government's hands are tied here because these are people who don't have dual citizenship. I mean, that's the issue right there. I think the fact that um, these people are simply Australian nationals and nothing else. So it's hard to deport them to another country if they're not the citizen of another country. I get that. There are exclusion orders though that he could sign, and I believe he's doing that for at least one of these women. But fair to say though that the very fact that the police are involved in this is, I think, to do with the media not letting this subject go,
Yeah.
uh, because there was a lot of outrage, given the fact that we are deporting English and South African people for committing no crime whatsoever, but they think wrong things. And then on the other hand, you've got these women who do these fucking international terrorism tours, you know, popping out babies that will just grow up to be future terrorists.
Literal ticking fucking time bombs.
Yeah. Now, ASIO made the point again. They're like, look, we don't have any immediate security concerns about these women or about their children. It's like, but that's not the point. Okay, yeah, fine. I admit their children aren't going to come over here and become suicide bombers like straight away. But the fact that they are laying down roots here in Australia, raising families, what does that lead to in the future? You know?
Oh, angry, desperate, disparate enclaves of well, I
Yeah.
guess internationally terrorist linked people.
Yeah. And, we're not just talking about terrorism, we're talking about things like organized crime, we're
Yep.
talking about gang rape. Um, I don't know if you saw, Nolsey, but like there's been a massive increase in arson attacks in Melbourne, like
Yep.
particularly in like the entertainment districts. Um, it's like a group calling themselves the cartel or something. But there's every reason to believe that this is just Middle Eastern crime. Uh, it's just a little bit more recent, I guess, in Melbourne than what it's been in Sydney. But I have absolutely no doubt that once police actually get on top of this, because right now they're saying they don't know what it is, like all these arson attacks in Melbourne. Once they get there, I know this is going to be something to do with ethnic violence and probably Middle Eastern crime because it always is.
I still love how like Syria headed off the Australian government because the Australian government was like, it's like, oh, like, oh, it was Syria that just just oh it'll just they put the burden on our hands, and the Syrian government just went around and put the fucking memo being like, yeah, you're gonna send them to us now,
Yeah, yeah.
like headed them off of the chase. It was fucking hilarious.
But a lot of these women, like, they could have just stayed there, you know. And I think that they basically came to the conclusion that, well, doing a spell in jail in Australia probably better than hanging out in a refugee camp in Syria. You know?
No,
And yeah, all right. Oh, I just threw this in quickly beforehand. Nolsey, do you know about Sneako?
oh yeah. I can't say I
So,
support this shit because this shit is always like petty politics shit when they ban someone from the
oh, it
country.
is. Oh,
But
definitely.
God, yeah,
So,
no, seriously, fuck this guy.
yeah, so look, I first heard of this guy when I watched that Louis Theroux Manosphere documentary that came out recently. Uh, Now, he is some kind of fucking mulatto or some like jungle Asian. I'm not sure. He's some
Here's
sort of
here's the product of the United States.
yeah. He's a classic like 56 percenter. He's from the Manosphere. Now, he actually landed in Australia. He had a visa approved and he landed. But then Shari Markson from Sky News went and did a hit piece on him, basically, saying that he is an anti Semite, that he has like a mix of radical Islamic and neo Nazi views. He apparently mixes the
Kind
two.
of. Just vaguely
So
anti-Israel, from my opinion, from my understanding.
he's like, well, yeah, he is, but he's also one of these types who say that like Satanists are controlling the world. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's easy to see why people come to that conclusion sometimes, certainly. But no, but he was into all this other stuff. Like in the Manosphere documentary, he was talking about models like covering one eye, and that's supposed to represent Satan or something. I don't know. So he's a bit of a rightoid. He's a bit of a conspiracy nut. But every now and then he has mentioned that he thinks that Jews may have something to do with what's wrong in the world today. And
yeah, you guys said
surprising,
that.
actually. Have you seen the documentary?
Oh no, I haven't seen the documentary, but I know about Sneako. I remember back in the day when he was like an Andrew Tate like guy.
Yeah, yeah. But like one thing that what I did find surprising in that documentary was a lot of them did mention the Jews. Uh, they they spoke about them in much more of a E. Michael Jones way, in that
Yeah,
the Jew is a theological construct rather than a racial ethnic group. Um, but yeah, I guess they would still say some things that you would consider to be anti-Semitic. Now, Shari Markson followed up after she did her hit piece on Sky News, she wrote an article basically claiming credit for the fact that Sneako was then arrested and he's either been deported or is on his way. So look,
well, again, they use the magic word. Like, he could have actually been like a radical Islamic extremist. I believe that he is a Islamic convert. But yeah, they use the magic word of anti-Semitism. That's how you get what you want. That's how you get the attention of our bureaucratic system.
Yeah, but Shari Markson is saying effectively that Tony Burke didn't care that he came to Australia. I don't think that's the case at all.
No.
I think, as his name would suggest, he actually did a Sneako. He came over and people didn't know he was coming. And then once it was revealed, Tony Burke's like, oh shit, how did that happen? We better send him back. That's all it looks like to me,
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds more like oversight than anything else.
Yes. So if Tony Burke knew about this guy coming here and knew what his profile was, there is no doubt in my mind he would have prevented him from coming. So, this is not like Tony Burke's hand being forced because of the public pressure. No, he just wasn't looking.
Yeah, no.
All right, so onto the economy. We have another interest rate rise, 0.25%. So the cash rate is currently 4.35%.
Fuck.
Now, the Michelle Bullock, who is the RBA governor, she basically said that there was no other choice but to hike the rates. Of course, she did talk about the war in Iran, about energy instability and all of that, and how, well, we better actually get ready for more to come. So more interest rate rises, more inflation, tougher times in the economy. Don't think anyone is surprised by that. Apparently, annual growth in Australia has halved. So
I'm
GDP
surprised we're still using adjective growth.
I know. Well, it's 1.3%.
Oh God,
yeah, very low. And remember that 1.3% is simply accounted for by immigration. That's all it is.
Yeah. Look, and I think
economic units.
Yes, yeah, that's not real growth. No, I think I can't remember what economics may have been the fucking Austrian School of Economics books, but yeah, you need 3% growth year on year to sustain a business.
Yeah.
So that's concerning. I had a conversation with my cousins, and they're old business, they're old money, old business. And they own the land that they have in this industrial park outright, so they're not really too worried. And also, they've got international clients and so they're fine. But my cousin was complaining about how much of a ghost town the industrial park was last week.
All right, might look like how Dubai looks at the moment.
Yeah,
just empty. So. One plus side, if you could call it that, of the Iran war is that commodity prices have gone up, and we still have a lot of demand for commodities. So Australia is benefiting from that. The taxes and the royalties that we collect have actually gone up. Don't get too excited, though, because Jim Chalmers said that, look, all of the upward revisions to revenue are going to be banked to help pay down federal debts. And also, maybe will take the form of cost of living relief in the budget. And they haven't actually ruled out just outright cash payments. And yeah, look, the government often does this. Remember Rudd's like $700? I think it was $700.
I'm gonna give you $700 to fuck off. Well, $700 meant a little bit more back then too, considering between point A and point B we've had like retard levels of inflation.
Yeah. But this was in response to the GFC, and I just remember at the time, like on Facebook, whenever anyone got that money like deposited into their account, they would say on Facebook that they had just received stimulation or something like that.
Yep, something gross.
That was the gag.
What was the American stimulus checks like a little bit ago, and I remember people pointing out on Google, they'll type in "when is we gonna," and it's get another stimulus.
Yeah. Did you see that thing where if you type in "is they" in Google, like the predictive text comes up as "is they cutting food stamps"?
Yeah.
Did you see that? And I don't know if it still works now, but I checked that and it was true. It worked. That was the suggested text that came up on Google.
Oh man.
Yeah. So look, it's vote buying as well. Even though the Liberals aren't doing great in the polls, Albo, in terms of satisfaction as Prime Minister, isn't doing terribly well. And that Kevin Rudd actually had the most popularity in the opinion polls. He had the highest rate of any Prime Minister in Australian history back when he gave out those stimulus checks. He got up to like 80% approval or something ridiculous.
And then he got literally politically assassinated by Mark Liebler.
Yeah, and then like 2 years later, he got fucking knifed. So yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's like small, like say $300 checks that are rolled out. Okay, so I just had a few articles in the Australian. We don't need to go through all of these, but basically a lot of economists are saying that Jim Chalmers is downplaying just how bad of a state the economy is at the moment. Well, no shit. I don't think we need them to tell us that.
Yep.
Even though we might have, strong growth from commodity sales and stuff like that, that's not going to make up for everything bad that's happening. Yes. They're also planning to bank a lot of the savings from the NDIS cuts. So remember, the NDIS currently costs us over $50 billion a year. And so they are factoring some of the expected cuts into the next budget. So yeah, hooray, we're apparently going to pay off more debt by kicking the autos off the NDIS.
Yay. We're cutting the chicken tendies budget.
So Chalmers is also leaning towards making the instant asset write-off for business a permanent incentive. Now, this is part of his policy on increasing productivity in Australia, which, of course, has been going backwards possibly for decades now. So this apparently is based on the lowest cost, most productivity enhancing investment incentives. So it'd be extending the instant asset write-off of up to $20,000 per year for businesses with turnover of less than $10 million. So basically that means you get an extra 20 grand in your tax return if you're a small business.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that would somewhat help. I can't say I have any
an extra. If you're doing a turnover, not raw profit, of like $10 million, depending on like what your field is and etc. Just say like you got like a margin of 60% on stuff. 20 grand is probably not even half a month's expenses for you.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, like I remember you saying before, like you need 3% growth in a business or whatever.
Yeah.
That's like pretty much what businesses' profit margins are. They're around like 3, 4, 5%. A lot of people don't realize that. Um, there's exceptions like Apple computers or just Apple.
In
Apparently,
general,
their
yeah.
profits are like 20 to 30%, something like that. But yeah, most companies, people are surprised to learn that their profit margins are in the single digits.
People don't
So
know what the fuck overhead is. It's as
yeah,
simple as that. Like every time I've had this conversation with someone, they're like, "Oh, but if it's this much in materials and this much in labor," and I'm just like, "You don't understand the licensing, the leases, the fucking logistics costs, like the fucking payroll tax for fucking paying you."
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things. Which yeah, and I mean, I'm certainly not. You know, I'm not a socialist, even though you could perhaps describe me as a natsock or whatever. But no, I mean, I certainly don't support cracking down on small businesses or anything. And I know that they're as someone who actually tried to start one once, I know how hard it is, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, I decided it wasn't for me, but I did get kind of an inside look into just what is required. And yeah, a lot of people I think just don't appreciate just the amount of work and the amount of costs that you have to contend with, and the amount of shitty regulation. And there's a ton of behind the scenes stuff that you as a consumer just are never exposed to.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, so also everyone's predicting that they're going to either abolish or cut the discount on capital gains tax. So farmers are very upset. They don't want this to be applied to them. So we have approximately 80,000 family farms in Australia. And the National Farmers Federation is basically begging the government, like, look, um, you should make this apply to high flying property investors in the inner cities, but it's a bit different when we talk about family farms. Um, sure, I agree with that. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully the tinkering here with capital gains tax and probably negative gearing as well. Um, yeah, I don't think it should really apply to the agriculture section because they are, well, speaking about how hard it is to run a small family business in Australia, farming is definitely a very, very challenging thing. So, and we tend not to treat our farmers very nicely in Australia, even
No,
when
we
the
don't. We tend
coalition.
to like to fuck with them, and then sell out what's left to um agri farm industry.
Yeah, oh, we're very kind to big agri, very, very
Yes.
kind of, but not family owned agriculture. Um, and the National Party is now basically captive to big agri in Australia, which is why so many MPs leave the National Party. Barnaby Joyce is only one example. You know, of a disillusioned National Party member. There are so many. Remember Bob Catter? That's where he started. He left the Nationals long ago.
Yeah.
All right. Um, all right. So something else that Jim Chalmers is considering is a minimum tax on trusts of 30%, which would cover many small businesses and families in Australia, but would exempt farmers. So, well, I don't know, Nolsey, you're the rich boy. I'm sure your family's got a few trusts set up.
Oh,
Um,
you bet.
um, what do you
Only way
think
to
about
protect
the
yourself these
idea of
days.
30% tax on trust seems a bit excessive to me. I mean, I know that the reason why people actually set up trusts in the first place is because They're trying to avoid tax. So
You can transfer assets within a trust, within ownership of a trust, without getting taxed on transferring it. That's the main reason.
right. So
It's made like you're
that's
lane
why
millionaire in
Trump
this
wants to
country.
target it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, by the way, like if you get to a certain level of wealth, you just stop using trusts altogether, and it just becomes a business asset.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the way it used to be. Like, a trust was supposed to, in a lot of cases, it was like just to do with family estates and how they get distributed and how, um, well, dead people who are no longer alive, how you distribute their assets. Now it's been really overcomplicated, I think. So it makes sense, though, that the government would then want to go after it. Um, you know, the saying in economics, if it moves, tax it.
Yep.
And Labor are very good at that. So they know that there's a hell of a lot of potential government revenue there if they go after these trusts. Okay. Okay. So the Productivity Commission, they're calling on Labor to link any capital gains tax or negative gearing changes to future income tax cuts. So the Productivity Commission chair said that there is a case for the property tax changes, but for it to be serious reform, the economic benefit must flow to workers. Well, we'll see on the May 12th budget how that goes. In Tasmania, Taswater. So you're looking for an increase of 5.7% for your water over the next 4 years. Well, lucky water is relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
Our water
I was going to say, if they feel comfortable pulling this bullshit, what else are they going to feel comfortable doing?
Well, yeah, they're saying that the average bill per year would rise by about $350. So, I mean, I guess it adds up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe like 75 a quarter. Yeah, that's about right.
Chalmers is also looking to roll out COVID-era business tax relief. So even more. And apparently this is to compensate for the high interest rates as well that we have. Well, comparatively high. We've had interest rates in this country in like the 20s before, though. But, it didn't matter so much back then because a mortgage was so much smaller. Now,
yeah, your buying power was huge. Your mortgage terms, like, a mortgage is like, like it's basically something you pay off over your lifetime or a working lifetime, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
but yeah, and people were paying off that during that fucking period of time. What was that? Was that the 50s or 60s you're referring to? Because I remember two instances of it. But yeah, like people's buying power relative to their mortgage, they were paying it off they were getting a fucking loan for a house when they're in their teens and then paying it off by the time they're in their mid-20s.
Yeah,
which sounds fucking insane. But that's. Oh man, I had this conversation with my dad. Oh wow, this was when I was buying this place, and he was just like, "Oh, why don't you just get like a mortgage?" I was like, "I literally couldn't afford a mortgage." He was like, "But you're on this many figures." I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Well, I managed to get one earning less than a quarter of that, and I still managed to pay my mortgage off in 6 years." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to bully you again. We're getting out the inflation calculator. We're getting out the buying power calculator, motherfucker."
Yeah, like I heard Peter Dutton, like he apparently bought his first house in Queensland at the age of 19.
Yep.
But he was trying to explain it. He was like, "Look, I understand that I had it easier back then. The down payment that I had to make was so much less than what you would today."
Dude, no, fucking, you didn't have it easy. You didn't have it at all.
Yeah.
It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Like mine my parents have 3 properties, and let's just say they were very, very lucky. Like everything just sort of worked out for them in the end. And my parents actually did not start seriously. Sorry, fuck's sake. The videos on Facebook like automatically play now. I don't know how to turn that setting off.
Fucking
No,
boomer still on Facebook.
that was Pantera though. That was blasting through there. Look at that.
Cowboys from Hell.
No, well, this is about apparently 30 years ago today. The Great Southern Trendkill came out. That's
I'm gonna send that to a certain fan I know and make him feel very, very old.
Well, yeah, I still remember buying that album. No, but like my parents didn't start saving properly until like their early 40s or late 30s. You know, yet they still ended up with 3 properties. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if they realize just how lucky they are to have ended up with that.
My father, and he did admit that like he did get some assistance with his first property he got assistance with the deposit for his first property, but from his parents. But his second property he bought completely by himself, and it was a 2-acre investment duplex. When duplexes were like unheard of in Australia.
Yeah.
So, but by the time he was my age, he had 2 properties. Jeez. I have 1. And that's not because like, oh, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. Literally just the right people in my family died when I was a late teenager.
Oh my god. Oh. Okay. Well, Nolsey, we've got about half the prep to go. Do you want to maybe do it this in halves? We'll do this one tomorrow night or another night.
Oh yeah, sure, man. It is getting late.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit late. So, yeah. So, guys, I don't know. Maybe you're hearing this in the form of just 1 episode, maybe 2, but we will continue this another time. Okay, we're back on Friday afternoon, and we'll finish off now. So we're going to go on to housing.
Yes.
Starting here in WA. No grounds evictions will be banned in WA. I believe we're one of the few states that hasn't already done this. So, yeah, you've actually got to provide some kind of reason now.
Not that the barrier to entry to that isn't massively high.
No, but I mean, like, libertarians, will make the argument that this will make renting even more difficult because landlords would be like more picky with who they choose.
Yeah,
it's the same argument against like unfair dismissal laws. Like when you get fired, your boss has to actually provide a reason for you getting fired. You can't just get sacked. And
even with some of those things, I've seen it happen in real life and in fucking real time, where one of my coworkers was abrasive to his employer, and basically the boss man was going to fire him, and he was literally he waited for about 2 weeks until he could find something. And it's just like, okay, so you're now just exposing someone to extra labor and someone to like a stressful work environment.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if you're someone at work who like people don't like, they're just going to wait and see until they find something and then that they can get you for. Even though that is not the reason they're getting rid of you. They're getting rid of you because they don't like you. And yeah, employers are good at finding reasons why. So
I think
it'll be the same. I think when like landlords will just look for something.
Oh yeah, no. I know it was a joke Reddit from back in the day, but it was like Love for Landlords, and someone actually leaked a legitimate landlord's advice page of how to make a rigged shoe that like scratches timber floors, and like what exact depth to use, so you could just rub it out with a walnut, but it'll show up like really nicely on photos, and it was like 2.5 millimeters or something like that, or a 1/10 inch.
Yeah. I don't know. Like my personal view is that the law is skewed too much in favor towards the landlord for most things, but one thing where it's skewed too far in the tenant's favor is tenants who literally trash the place and then just leave. They basically get away with that, or at least that's my understanding. Because I've known people where that's happened, where the tenant just fucking trashes the place, hasn't paid rent in like a month, buggers off, and basically just gets away with it. That's fucked. That shouldn't happen.
I think just because we're in a crisis situation, I do actually think banning this is probably a good idea, because I can tell you, like, there's a whole bunch of landlords chomping at the bit to replace the single family that they rented out to originally in 2020 with an Indian man with quote unquote secretly 10 other Indian men for a much higher rent.
Okay. Yeah, look, I think I'm more or less in favor of it.
Yeah.
It's certainly not fair that, you can just get kicked out for no reason. So, okay. In Mount Isa, this is in Queensland, apparently 50 properties, many of which have been abandoned, are accruing years of unpaid rent. So, so the council there has begun legal action, and they're looking to sell these properties, but in many cases, they don't know who actually owns them. And because we're in this current property crisis, I mean, I imagine that this kind of got more attention for the council because, well, the government is looking for places for the people to live. And if you've got all of these abandoned properties, people are going to want to know what's going on with them. I assume that these are places just owned by boomer investors, and they've just kind of forgotten about them or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, we did talk. I did talk about an example with a certain retail company, with real estate management company, where they the owner has died, the tenant has literally signed the documents to move on, and the property just gets lost in the paperwork, and its status never gets updated.
Yeah, and I imagine that there's actually quite a few properties like that.
Yeah,
and yeah, that makes people go crazy when they're saying, well, hey, we've actually got all these empty properties just sitting there. There's got to be something we can do, right? So that we can get people into them. So, yeah, I mean, that's also why I think it is fair to have a high tax on property owners that just have a plot of land just sitting there. They should be incentivized to actually rent it out or sell it or whatever. Rather than just sitting there when people could actually live there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, related to high property prices, insurance premiums seem to already be going up. Well, going up even more. So, insurance firms, banks, and consumer advocates have proposed a national plan to offer cheaper home insurance premiums. And that's for Australians who upgrade their properties to withstand natural disasters. So, well, talking about Queensland, I mean, I know that, Queensland tends to be one of our more flood prone states. A lot of people, I think, with those abandoned houses, sometimes the reason why people abandon them is because, they're in a precarious area where they can be threatened by natural disasters. And
can't sell them, can't fix them, can't secure them against
and
it.
Premium's too high as well.
Yeah.
So
it's literally a fucking what's it called again? A rotten asset or something like that, or a rotting asset.
Haven't heard that metaphor.
Poison asset.
Like
something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that's to like incentivize people to actually do something with these properties. Because yeah, I mean, a lot of them are just not wanting to pay the high insurance premiums on them.
Yeah.
So okay, another thing, another like desperate measure to try to get more property development, try to get people building more houses, but it's still not dealing with migration, of course. Um, oh god, here's a good one. It is again in Queensland, Moreton Bay. The council there has cracked down on a charity because this charity provides skip bins to homeless people. So they go to like a homeless camp, one of these tent cities, as they're sometimes called, and they give them a massive skip bin to put their rubbish in, and that tends to just attract more of them. And the rubbish tends to not always stay in the skip bin. It tends to get distributed all around the place. So, yeah, you might think that that would be an uncontroversial thing to do, like just provide a bin for homeless people. But they're saying that it actually causes more problems than it prevents. So they've said that ever since they've been doing this, they've been dealing with rotting rubbish and maggots that spill onto the court um, near the local tennis court.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, I mean, if you do anything to attract bums to one area, like you know, it's not going to be nice. And that's also when you start finding bloody crack pipes and syringes and shit as well. I didn't read that about this place, but I imagine that's probably happening too. Um, that's the real reason people don't like homeless places, camps, scent titties, and that is because the kind of stuff that the bums do there is really fucked. you know,
You'll figure out that you don't live in a bubble.
yeah, and I mean, I just saw in the noticer when I was doom scrolling that apparently 1 in 3 Australians are functionally illiterate. And I think that just goes to remind you, like, remember how dumb the average person is, as George
Mm.
Carlin would always remind you. Yeah, like, even if you're sort of like just uh, a working class person who has their shit together, um, you have got it actually so much better than so many other people, who are functionally illiterate, who are drug addicts, who have no chance of getting work. Um, yeah, seeing one of these tent cities helps you get out of that bubble and shows you just how so many other people live.
Yeah, no, recently I ran into a guy who was, God, 7 years my junior. Physically able, not like, I wouldn't say drug fucked, but like that borderline of it.
Yeah.
It's like he was still employed, still got his stuff together, still was functionally a gopher because of his age. And yeah, he lives in a tent city.
Oh god.
Yep. Just out and about, just ran into this dude, and I was like, oh fuck, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's sad. And now of course we've got stories about lawyers even considering moving into their cars temporarily. It's quite sad. Um, okay, so in Victoria, no surprise here, there is a shortage of outreach workers to support homeless people.
Yeah.
So, according to this article on the ABC, Victoria needs about 5 times as many outreach workers as it has to help the number of people sleeping rough, which is increasing all the time. Um, yeah. I mean, imagine if, like, you're someone who actually moved out of a rental because it was too expensive, and then you went and lived in your car, and then, like, your car suddenly becomes too expensive because of the price of fuel, you know? Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm sure that's happened to a lot of people.
I know someone who moved out of a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom as a white collar professional who lives in literally the step above a hostel right now. Guy I went to uni with. Yeah.
Yeah. I just keep hearing stories like that all the time. You know?
It's The Racer. It's your number one bad news podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so finally, again in Victoria. Oh, hold on. Here's sort of the good news one. Now, I rail against high density housing all the time. So there's finally some pushback against this in Melbourne. So these people call themselves the Livable Victoria Alliance. So they've formed to campaign against rezoning in Melbourne that allows apartment towers to be as high as 20 stories. Yeah, so they're just saying that, look, this is too much. Like, Victoria and Melbourne especially is already densely populated enough. Why do we need even more? Because, I mean, most of the time when government actually talks about development, they're never talking about like building on new lots of land. It's just building on the existing land and subdividing and rezoning all the time. So, yes, great. These people have my full support.
Yeah.
Don't know if what their chances are. I'd say they're probably pretty slim, but it's good to see some pushback anyway.
It's good to see someone fight the power.
Yeah. Okay, so industrial relations. So we've got some more little tidbits from the inquiry into the CFMEU in Queensland. So the former Queensland Secretary, so the head of the CFMEU, Michael Ravbar, apparently he made threats at a 2021 meeting about project conditions on one of the building sites, and he accused top bureaucrats of being lazy cunts. So
possibly, I've heard many such cases.
So he was also, him and the union were accused of manufacturing safety records, in other words, lying about how safe a worksite was, in order to get projects delayed or stalled, stuff like that. And, it's never actually because of the safety standards, it's because there's some sort of financial dispute that the union has with the builder. Pretty common thing that they're accused of. Okay, so it's also heard that contractors working on the Cross River Rail project were pressured to hire union delegates as health and safety reps. Okay, now I'm going to push back on this one and say I actually don't see anything wrong with that, because when you've got a health and safety rep that works directly for the company, I mean, aren't they yes men? They're hired to, the company is not going to hire health and safety reps that are a detriment to production, are they?
Allow me to do something that's vastly against my own interests.
Yes. So I mean, that's a classic example of what you call a conflict of interest. So I actually think no, the health and safety rep would be much better being someone outside the company. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be from the union. It could be like government regulator or something like that. But the point is, it shouldn't be someone who, has an interest in supporting the company. You can't hire yes men. So,
no,
yeah, I don't really see anything wrong with that. Okay. Well, this one. So, the AWU, the Australian Workers Union, they actually have some membership among these projects in Queensland. Now, the AWU, in terms of union rivalry, is like the CFMEU's biggest enemy. In fact, the CFMEU very often quip that AWU stands for Australia's worst union. So,
well, we do have to have some free market competition in our controlled labour union environment.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, understand, like, the AW may have at one stage been representative of its members, but it stopped being that long ago. It is basically where you go to start a career in politics for the Australian Labor Party. That's what it is. Remember Bill Shorten? He was the head of the AWU. Um, and that's where he got like the high profile because of the Beaconsfield mine. Those two miners who were trapped, like they were with the
Yeah.
AWU. But anyway, the CFMU have been accused of, well, trying to muscle out the AWU. So they do things like find their members on the worksite and say, hey, you should jump ship. You should come over to us. Now, in all fairness, I would say though that like an individual worker would be better off actually jumping over to the CFMEU.
Yeah, possibly at this point, yeah.
I am sure that they would be better represented. And
If we had a bigger army next time, they might actually be able to succeed in lynching their director.
yeah. Okay. What else we got? Oh yeah. So Launceston Council. We spoke about how they wanted to do a 4-day work week while maintaining the same pay. So they announced in January that they had an in principle agreement with the Australian Services Union to implement this 4-day work week while maintaining current pay. But the ABC has obtained documents that show there was no business case for the since scrapped plan, and that the council was strict about how the strategy was communicated. The council says a formal working group has now been established to gather data on the 4-day work week for the next enterprise agreement discussion. So, in other words, they made this up. There was no actual serious plan to implement this, but they're saying at the next enterprise agreement that they form, this may actually be on the cards again. Yeah, this is the one. I think they said that the 4 days you would work longer hours, and that way you could get that extra day off. I might
Okay.
like that. Doesn't seem like such a bad idea to me. I wouldn't mind doing that.
Might help for mental health. Who knows? But yeah, no, I think the main thing is that people paying council rates might want to make sure productivity still goes up, so they still get equivalent amount of bang for their buck. Especially because council rates have just gone up a whole shit ton across the board, haven't they?
Yes, as they always do. Okay. All right. Now we're talking about the relationship between generative AI and the workplace in Australia. So, Albo is going to demand that the private sector dramatically lift its rate of investment in Australian AI or risk a near term hollowing out of industry and an exodus of data overseas. So, believe it or not, we actually have an AI assistant minister, Andrew Charlton. Yes, we have an assistant minister for this now. So, he said that some of Australia's biggest companies, such as NAB, Macquarie, Westpac, Telstra, Optus, that they should lead the charge in buying and investing in local AI. He says some will say this is all protectionism dressed up as patriotism. It's not. He said, I'm not asking anyone to buy an inferior product. I'm asking Australian businesses, when you have a choice between a foreign AI product and an Australian one, and the choice is close, and often it is close, lean Australian. I don't know. You use AI a lot,
Yeah.
Noel. Is Australian AI any good? Do we even have any?
I literally haven't seen it across any of the fields that
Yeah,
I've been in. I haven't seen it across any of the platforms. There might be some business model stuff where you pay for your own data center, and then like you're paying like $250,000 for an automation service. In that case, I'm not in the field where I would see it. But dude, like low end consumer grade, fuck no, non-existent. Which makes sense. We don't have gigantic like gigafactory sized data centers, unlike China, unlike the States, and that's pretty much the two leaders in the market is China and US. So yeah,
right.
like recently, I only just after all the suggesting, I just got Emily Baylog to switch over from Sora 2 to Sea Dance. And yeah, so like that's for the Will Stancil show. It'll look cleaner these days because the Chinese one is objectively better. But in all honesty, this is more about like trading security. Like if you like China's our biggest trading partner. What jeopardizes your ability to trade with someone equitably?
Well, okay, look, you said this. You said when you outsource that capability to a foreign vendor, you don't just buy a product, you create a path of dependency. You
Yep.
hollow out local expertise. You hand over globally unique data with no value captured for the nation.
Yeah, so what the main concern is here is that for starters, China's still currently winning this like AI race thing. Um just solely for material reasons. If you're trading with someone and they can just look at your accounts and they can just have an entire holistic picture of what your business is doing, what your clients are paying, how the people within inside your organization are moving, you are at a massive disadvantage. That's what they're scared about. They're not. If people think like, oh, this is, protectionism dressed up as patriotism, that's nothing to do with this. It's literally just keeping business interests um, at least a trading neutral.
Right. Well, I don't know. Most things about AI, I got to say, like I don't like. Um, it's yeah. Look, it is putting a lot of people out of work, but it is. I mean, people are going to start using it. Well, I assume they already are. Like, are they using it to generate porn now? Because I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
if you can generate like lifelike graphics, then obviously there's going to be people doing that. I was wondering, like, is there like an AI blow up doll yet? I reckon there has to be. Like,
well, dude, if you fucking look for it, you'll probably find it. I had someone who I'm kind of iffy about these days make the comment that like it was easier to put clothes on his native AI model than to remove them. Like he'll start off naked and go from there. Which, considering the stuff he liked to generate, I wasn't exactly comfortable with it at the time. Not exactly comfortable with it now. You know. So in terms of the AI porn stuff, oh, dude, fuck. Actually, no. In terms of the AI porn stuff, go on Twitter, scroll down. 15 minutes, you'll hit an ad for that shit.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, there's also a new thing that I've realized, which is like you'll have these like drop ship, middleman vendor things. And normally the problem with the middleman vendor is like, oh, they'll have to buy the product themselves and like, you know, do something about how it's high quality and whatnot, do like some marketing spiel. And these days they've created these like they've used these realistic like if you put effort into an AI video, I could fool myself, I could fool you, I could fool probably 9 out of 10 people. And they make these really realistic AI videos about, oh yeah, here's how this product is actually crafted by hand. Here's how it like I'm a small vendor. My turnaround is this, and that's because like this is all I do, and it'll be really nice if you could, help me with this, and like they'll lace in some kind of sob story there, and it's literally this person does not exist, this vendor does not exist. It is a factory somewhere, and whoever knows wherever the fuck pumping this shit out, posing as someone literally tailored to your local area.
Right. Yeah, stuff like that I don't like at all.
Creepy shit.
Okay, so in Victoria, the teachers have called off rolling half-day strikes because the government has called them back to the negotiating table. So see how that goes. And on the health workers union, it looks like it's final. This dispute that they've had for a while, where they wanted to keep affiliation with the Labor Party. So this is where, when you paid your membership dues for the HWU, part of that money actually went towards the Labor Party as well, as is very often the case with unions, because they're linked politically. But the scandal-plagued HWU, the Fair Work Commission said, no, you can't do that anymore.
I'd say it would be fine if it was like brought up, because like, and here's one of the things that a lot of people in unions complain about. They complain about what are unions doing and etc. And it's like, okay, well, do you show up to your like AGMs and etc. And the answer to that is always no. If this was brought up consistently at AGMs, I would be fine with it, because if you're a union and you're not playing the politics game, then you're going to be losing sooner or later. But yeah, just making sure like the members are completely and utterly informed and that they have the opportunity to object to it, that's fine. That should be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah,
look, I mean,
it's just
the Labor Party wanted to keep it that way. So because this actually strips them of about $100,000 a year. Simply from those affiliation fees that they had. So my understanding is that the HWU has been shown to be so dodgy, so corrupt, that they should be denied any kind of political influence. That's essentially what they've said. And I get it. I mean, this is the place that's produced leaders that pay for prostitutes on the credit card for the union.
Yeah.
And that's just one example. There's so many more. A number of their union delegates have actually gone to jail over the misappropriation of funds. Craig Thompson is just one. Okay, moving on to climate and energy. Right. So, David Pocock has sort of made a bit of a name for himself as being the tax the gas guy. And here's apparently how he made this go viral, as they say. During a Senate estimates hearing, he was asking someone, I can't remember who it was, but what is the total amount of tax collected from gas each year in Australia and the total amount collected from beer in Australia? And believe it or not, we actually collect more tax from beer. Now, I would argue that's because the taxes we have on alcohol are ridiculous. But what David Pocock is saying, no, it's that the taxes on gas are too low. I guess you could argue. So we are apparently, I don't know how they measure this, but like according to David Pocock, we are the biggest gas exporter in the world. So, considering all of those things, yeah, we should be kind of bringing in a fair bit of revenue from gas in Australia. But yeah, I mean, look, he's demanding this 25% tax on it. He says that we should sort of go the way that the Norwegians do, with a sovereign wealth fund that pays for people's retirements.
I think if anyone actually campaigned on that, they would be like cruise missiled by like a privately owned PMC.
Yeah, well, look, Albo and the coalition have said that they're basically uninterested in this.
Yeah, I mean, like with the Norway thing, or Norwegian thing. Sorry. that was like a circumstance where basically the surveying and prospecting company was functionally state owned, was nationalized. So unfortunately, because even though like say our early prospecting efforts may have been nationalized, and we may have actually found these deposits and these resources by national means, because we've just like did nothing, didn't move in with a nationalized company. The private sector just comes in, buys leasing rights, and goes for it. And unfortunately, not to throw around cliches, like they mean nothing, but money talks.
Well, look, nationalization of industry, I mean, that just isn't something that has support in Australia, I don't think.
No.
So, unless, I mean, Pocock will be accused of being like a communist if he went that direction, I think. But, no, I mean, look, I don't really have a problem with nationalizing natural resources of a country. Um, I don't see anything wrong with that. The idea that like we all like collectively own those resources, um, and there's
I
plenty of
think
countries that do it.
yeah, you could get support behind it if you guaranteed the maintenance of like wages or higher end wages for the actual functionaries of the company. I'd imagine you could say that. I'd be like, hey, look, like just tell them where the actual private profits are going, and say like, look, like we're going to make sure that like you still get your share of this pie. There'll be no difference to you whatsoever. Is that like, hey, look, this resource is going to now be like discounted by the level of profits we're removing from the absolute top, which I don't know, might need some more research into it, but should be decent.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about the battery rebate, home battery rebate. So this is where this is for your solar panels. You store solar energy on a big battery. Um, so the changes to the home battery rebate are coming into effect, or actually, they would have already come into effect. So this has been quite popular. It's known as the Cheaper Home Batteries program. So in less than a year, Australians' residential battery capacity doubled. More than 250,000 units were installed across the country in the first 9 months, which has added about 7.7 gigawatt hours of storage. So that's about the equivalent of 40 of the big batteries Elon Musk built in South Australia. Wasn't that one like a real fuck up though? That
Yeah.
Elon Musk
Here's
battery.
again, I think we talked about this at the time. One of the big limiting factors with batteries is like, okay, on paper, like zero time scale, zero anything. Their consumables and their production with the current technology is incredibly destructive to the environment, and they rely on incredibly finite resources. So like you can't just battery your way out of an energy problem. Although
Right.
it does make solar. Previous place towards the end, I did have a battery and it did help, but it went down from 100% of its capacity to about 91% in a year. So when you're talking about the total production cost of say like a 10 kilowatt hour unit would be suitable for your average Australian home, single family dwelling. They just don't pay themselves off in their lifespan, let alone the environmental damage they do between cradle and grave. You can look this up yourself. There's as long as the website isn't like greenproject.com and is like a serious engineering website. Even the Engineers Union of Australia even says this. It's like, yeah, like maybe we need to look at like non-electrochemical storage options and whatnot. But the problem is that like in terms of safe storage for public use that's easy to charge and easy to discharge, unfortunately, electrochem is pretty much it.
Okay. Look, this program actually proved to be more successful than what the government anticipated. and that is that they had a certain amount of money applied to the fund, but they're already very close to running out because they just did not expect that many people to get the battery and then apply for the rebate. So the subsidy will decline more quickly over time and be applied on a tiered basis by size. Yeah, so they're gradually repealing it, in other words. But I mean, that's the way it was supposed to be for all this green energy stuff. Just like when we say that, taxes will eventually apply for electric vehicles, things like that.
Yeah.
The government isn't going to endlessly subsidize green energy and solar panels and batteries and whatever. It simply can't afford to do so. But yeah, we've got like enough people on board now, and of course the Iran war, the take up of EVs and everything has all really accelerated things. And I'm just hoping that the demand with AI, if there's anything good about it, means that we're going to move towards nuclear at some point.
Well, again, we're going to have to.
Gonna have to what?
We're just going to have to, just logistically speaking, we are going to have to. Our grid is not. Our grid will need to be, like we've talked about this 1,000 fucking times at this point. Our grid will need to be modified extensively and expensively for green energy, projects. Saying that we move away from fossil fuels, which is like I don't think anyone needs to really worry about fucking CO2. I said that when I first joined this show. But if we're going to keep that narrative going, and we want something that's green energy, that I guess I will admit is now the concept is popular with the youth, then yeah, it has to be nuclear. That's it. There is no other feasible solution.
Yeah. Okay, now at the same time, the government is saying that the federal government, that is going to be financially backing 10 renewable energy projects here in WA. Our energy minister, Amber Jade Sanderson, tells us that. She's also saying that West Australia's fuel supplies for May has growing confidence for June. So yeah, she was trying to tell us we're not going to run out of fuel, at least until June.
That one fucking AI video I made with my dumb little character screaming and trying to with the Mad Max thing approaches ever so nearer each day.
Yeah, well, look, also, the Regional Development Assessment Panel in WA has approved Synergy's proposed 20-turbine wind farm that will be constructed in the southwest. So, yeah, there's no stopping this stuff.
Dude, this must be the end of some fucking contracts, man, because I don't know if you saw the one. I can't remember if it's before Lanceland or after Lanceland up here. But there's a long stretch of road that goes north, and it's like Lanceland, Jurien Bay, There was a test wind farm up there, and it literally didn't generate back the amount of energy it took to move the equipment there.
Yeah, you often hear stories like that.
I mean, a lot of people go back to Planet of the Humans, that like Michael Moore's Friends documentary when it comes to this shit. But his thing is we just got to do better. But at the end of the day, you can keep squeezing an apple. You can put much more effort in getting less in return.
I think what Michael Moore really hates about it is the fact that so many of the existing fossil fuel companies actually ended up getting rich off green energy as well. He sort of wanted those people to disappear.
If you're in the 80s and you were talking about green energy, even with inside what we call STEM circles now, I'd call them scientific and applied circles back then. you'd be fucking laughed at. You'd be laughed at for practical reasons. You'll get your head torn off. It was only when basically these fossil fuel companies were like, oh yeah, by the way, we can, make these green renewable energy stuff out of fossil fuel products or petrochemical products, and we can get government funding so we don't have to worry about private investor and private sector instability. That's when it stopped becoming so laughable, and you started having like literal advocates, paid shills on campuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a story that every leftist doesn't want to deal with.
Yeah, Michael Moore is old enough to remember that these oil companies and everything were, they were sort of traditional enemies of the left back then, big evil fossil fuel companies.
The man,
a lot. Yeah,
they're like this large international corporation that kind of resembles how I feel about my dad.
Yeah, you could make that argument.
As coming from the left, trust me, that neuropathy is there. That's not a joke. That is quite literally there.
No, I've heard that theory before. But yeah, back then also like pharmaceutical companies were big enemies of the left too. It's kind of changed now, obviously. Okay, so we're going to go to state politics, and we're going to talk about the Nepean by-election. So this has just come and gone, and the Liberal Party did retain this seat, Victorian seat, and they actually did by quite a lot. So I've just opened up the latest count on this. So 83.6% has been counted. The Liberals' Anthony Marsh got 63.6%. This is two-party preferred, compared to the closest candidate, who is an independent, a Teal, Tracy Hutchison. She got 36.4%. Now, the One Nation candidate, I think, was third. So this is not the, obviously the result that One Nation wanted. However, this is not really considered to be the first national test. The first national test will be the seat of Farrer, which is tomorrow, actually. That election is.
Okay. So, on a Saturday? I guess. Yeah, actually, no. That makes sense. On Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. There was also an upper house election for two regions in Tasmania, and they were both by the Liberals as well. So they retained those. So they're still clinging on over there. Okay, now, in terms of the seat of Farrer, this was triggered, of course, by Susan Lee's resignation. One Nation are doing the best here. Now, this is said to be like a multi-party race. There is, of course, One Nation. There's the Liberals. There's the Nationals. They are both running in this. There's Labor, and there's a Teal candidate. Even though the Teal candidate claims to not be a Teal. However, they do get donation money from Climate 200. And that's basically the definition of a Teal.
Yeah.
So... So Pauline Hanson has been spending a lot of time there, and this includes flying there in her new private plane. Now, everyone keeps going on about how expensive this plane was. Well, it was $1.5 million. That won't even buy you a property in Western Sydney now. So
I'm trying to think, because people
that much money.
People were posting things of Ginger One, and it was a Robin. I'm just like, if you're saying that costs $1.5 million, it doesn't. Like people are posting photos of it. I'm gonna look at this up just to make sure I'm talking about the right thing.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, the Liberals and the Nationals are both preferencing one nation. So it looks like, you know, not that Labor had a chance here, but basically all of those preferential votes will be funneled to one nation, and I'd say that will give them an even more convincing victory. So, look, this is, as I say, like the first kind of national test for one nation after their big spike they've experienced in popularity. Um, and look, both Angus Taylor and Matt Canavan have said that, well, they prefer Pauline Hanson and One Nation over
That it's
Labor.
yeah, no, it's the plane. It's the plane that I fucking saw. That's a Cirrus G7.
Okay.
So yeah, that's not worth 1.5 million.
No.
I'm gonna say that it's.
How much is it worth?
I'm just gonna go look at the market rate for it just in case there's been like fucking horrific increases in its price. The only problem is with these ones, yeah, okay, fucking 900,000, so close enough, but that is for a souped up one. We're talking about an SR22T, so it's a late model one. So probably not even that, and used, so 700,000. So literally half of what they're reporting.
Okay. Well, I just asked ChatGPT, and it says that it was worth roughly between 1.3 million and 2.1 million. So
What the
I don't
fuck?
know. That's what ChatGPT tells me.
That's not what that's not what the fucking Jandakot marketplace app says.
The figure that I kept hearing on the news was 1.5. I kept hearing that.
Okay, maybe they're doing a compromise.
Yeah.
Again, it's like a used car. There's going to be a lot of things that affect its price, but yeah, it's an older model and it's used. So I don't. If that's like brand new, custom off the line, then maybe 1.3. But
well, anyway,
it's not a private jet for
it's
sure.
not that much. It's not that much money. The Greens get donations that big all the time. But yeah, I think Gina apparently splashed another $2 million on One Nation as well. Because I guess she just kind of sees them as the least worst option. They're now thoroughly a neoliberal party. They're not like what they were back in 1998. The kind of protectionism that Pauline Hanson supported back then, and yes, she did support protectionism. You can actually see that in her maiden speech, where she spoke about Arthur Colwell being a great Australian Labor Party leader who wanted to protect the economy and also wanted to reduce migration. Colwell is the Labor figure who said two Wongs don't make a white, for those who've heard that one. Oh.
I remember that one, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, Gina's thrown a lot in here because, well, Pauline Hanson is leading our equivalent of like the Dutch Freedom Party or the Reform or Restore or whatever the hell it is now in the
Reform. Restore's a little bit different.
UK. Okay. Is Restore a good one?
Restore's better. Like, league's better. Reform is the one that has Indian candidates, so I think it's much more fitting to compare it to One Nation.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Oh, yeah. So, just on that candidate who says that she's not a teal. So, her name is Michelle Milthorpe. And she has just said no, she's just an independent. She answers to no one. Now, she pointed out that, yes, she does receive money from Climate 200, but that's one of many donors. And she has gotten 2% of her money from Simon Holmes Accord. But then when you follow like where all the other stuff is coming from, well, the coalition has said that there's a web of teal money. So the Regional Voices Fund kickstarted her campaign in February with a $60,000 donation. And it has promised the next $10,000 worth of donations will be matched by an undisclosed contributor. When you look at a lot of this money, okay, it's not coming from Climate 200, but it's coming from like donors who always donate to teals, essentially.
Yeah. Teal benefactories, right?
Yes. And so, in this Regional Voices Fund, they relied at the last election on hundreds of thousands of dollars from teal donors and only donated to Climate 200 endorsed candidates. Well, there you go. All right, and look, just sort of related to this was the result of the Farrer by-election may well influence whether or not both Pauline Hanson and Barnaby Joyce will run in the lower house or in the Senate. So remember, Pauline's in the Senate. Barnaby is in the lower house because he ran for the Nationals in the seat of New England. Now, minor parties, of course, always have a better shot in the Senate. But generally speaking, you're considered to be more influential if you have representation in the lower house. And that's where leaders come from as well. Barnaby actually, he also started his career in the Senate, but he went to New England in the lower house when he decided he could be a leader of the Nationals. And that's exactly what happened. So, both of them are now saying if they have a genuine shot in the lower house, then they may well actually run there instead. Now, look, in terms of Barnaby, I reckon he would actually have a genuine shot at winning New England, simply because he's such a popular candidate, you know.
What the fuck did Barnaby Joyce do recently? I'm trying to. I've just been sitting here and I was like, he did something really fucked recently. I'm trying to remember.
Well, he was on a few things. I mean, he had an affair. You know, he fathered a child outside of marriage. He also got like maggoted in Canberra and fell on the ground. And just
oh yes, the mumbling on the fucking plinth. That's what I was trying to think about.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't all that recent. Now that was like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
And then David Littleproud like made him take a week off or something. like go get your shit together type thing.
Sober up, you fuckhead.
Okay, I've got to go in a few minutes, so let's do a bit of a lightning round here. All right, so South Australian Liberals. So the Liberal MLC Dennis Hood said he will not take up the upper house position of president, which is the equivalent of the speaker. And this was really dirty because, like, if you do that, of course, you've got one less vote for your party. So that's why the Speaker of the House always comes from the party that's won. In this case, Labor, of course. And then they lose a vote. So Labor were trying to actually get the Liberal MLC to be the president, which would give them a numbers advantage. Okay, Queensland ALP. Vahid Reza Adib. You know who this man is?
I wish I didn't.
He is the partner of former Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk. Well, guess what? He has been arrested and charged with 3 counts of rape, 2 counts of deprivation of liberty, and 1 count of sexual assault. As I said on the socials, Arabs will always be rapey. And, you know, this is the real reason that Muslim countries implement, like, Sharia and make it so that women have to cover their hair and sometimes even their entire face.
It's just a societal response to how they be, because they do be like that, Mr. Finian.
Yeah, Arabs are really rapey, and so that is just a government response, and that's why when Arabs come to our countries, when they come to say Sydney, and they don't have the same kind of restrictions, well, you end up with fucking gang rapists like Bilal Scaff. That's what happens.
Actually, going back to X or Twitter, I'm just going to call it Twitter forever. Fuck you. Um, because now it auto translates shit and etc. Like I said last time, I saw like an Urdu thing, and because I guess I hovered on it too long, it decided that like I wanted to see more of that content, like Australian, like fucking Hindi and Urdu communities.
Yeah.
And one of the things was like it just ordered. It was a video in fucking gooby gobby fucking language. I couldn't understand it. And the video was just like, oh, how to get rid of rape thoughts, and the description was like, oh, here's meditation on how to get rid of overly sexual or rape thoughts.
Oh man. Well, you remember that controversial sheikh that we had, or the mufti, whatever the hell, and he said that like women who walk around on a beach in a bikini, it's like showing uncovered meat to a cat. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was really, he caused a huge fucking stir over that. But like, yeah, what he was describing there was like, yeah, like if you flaunt your stuff to like a horny Arab, then you can't be surprised if he like goes up and gropes you or even rapes you. That was basically what he was saying. And that's not inspired from the Quran. That's inspired from like the kind of behavior that Arab men show when left to their own devices.
Well, yeah. Again, we just recently had that Sikh guy who raped and murdered that woman and then fled to India, and obviously got extradited back. And now we got an update. He's been charged, like properly. But his defense went from like, oh yeah, but there was mass men and I fled to India because like I thought they saw me and they would kill me anyway. And then it went to like, well, actually, she was alone and she shouldn't have been wearing that. And like I can't be punished for this under my religion. That's
Yeah,
where his defense went. That didn't work out, thankfully. But it's not like that defense hasn't worked out in Victoria, in New South Wales. Hell, even here. The only good news I have is that fucking pedophile Craig Silvey finally got charged. Bad news, his wife won't, even though they're manufacturing CSAM with his 2 daughters.
God. Well, like domestic violence is also really high in the Arab world, and again, I don't think it's because like Islam tells you you have dominion over your woman or whatever. It's just that's the way they are. That's the way Arabs are. There was uh, there was this guy in America, an Arab Muslim who he owned a TV station. I think it was one of those like public access TV things, and it was called Bridges. And the reason he called it Bridges is because it was designed to build bridges between the Muslim world and the West, or like Muslims in America and the rest of the American population. You know what that guy ended up doing? He chopped his wife's head off with a scimitar, with a giant sword, right?
Yep.
Literally. Look this up if you don't believe me. This is the guy who said that his job was to build bridges between Muslims and mainstream Americans, and then he fucking decapitates his wife with a giant sword. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to Queensland Libs. Now, this cabinet minister Tim Mander, um, he has done a bit of a Barnaby Joyce, and he is now said to openly be in a relationship with fellow cabinet minister Amanda Cam. So this relationship was formally declared on the 14th of July last year. And Tim Mander had left his wife of 44 years. Wow. So the reason why this is controversial, though, or why it has the attention of some is not because of like the morality of it, but because when you are supposed to declare that information, because yes, that is something you have to actually declare. And you see, it's hard to pin it down. They've said that they recently rekindled their relationship, but they found that a lot of money was passing through their respective departments. So this guy is the Olympics minister because, of course, there's going to be the Brisbane Games. So the budget papers show that his Department of Sport directed nearly $1 million in the Games on capital grants to 5 clubs in Amanda Cam's electorate of Sunday, while Child Safety Minister, Amanda Cam, that's what she is, the Child Safety Minister, her department allocated $3.1 million to build new facilities at the men's shed in Bunya, which is in Tim Mander's electorate. So they were like giving each other like public funds in their electorates. Now, they're both saying that during the period of which this money was being exchanged, they were categorically not in a relationship. However, since then, they have reconnected. So they said that they were like in a relationship for a little while. Then they were out of a relationship, and then apparently in June last year they reconnected, and then in July they declared the relationship is genuine. But yeah, don't worry. During the time all of that money was flowing, they apparently were not in a relationship. That is fucking hilarious.
Very nice tactic, Colin. Let's see if that bullshit flies.
But yeah, probably not. Probably not. Okay. So, New South Wales ALP. Crispin says that he will not intervene in the likely pre-selection of a pro-Palestine MP. So this is the Labor MP Anthony D'Adam. He's a backbencher, but he's been vocally pro-Palestine, and he's been turning up to all of the major pro-Palestine rallies in Sydney. And he's even been taking pot shots at the police for their apparent acts of brutality on certain protesters. Okay, now it is official. The Palestine Action Group organizer Josh Lee has successfully registered his party, the New South Wales Socialists. So they're due to contest the next state election, which is in March next year. Well, here's what he says their goal is: to take on the Chris Minns government, the right and the rotten capitalist system they defend. We need your support. That's who New South Wales Socialists are, a party fighting for a society run for people, not for profit. That's original.
Well, I could tell you from going to one of the socialist events and looking at how quickly that they completely and utterly sheep hooked a woman off stage as soon as she made comments even getting close to talking about actual Zionism and world Jewry. This ain't gonna last, buddy. This is smoke and mirrors. They're gonna get their shit shoved so fucking far in.
They'll go nowhere. Nowhere.
Oh, dude, the fucking we'll see the creatives. If you remember them, Finian, the creatives rear their head again on this one, probably.
No, well, I mean, look, the New South Wales Socialists will end up like Socialist Alternative or what's the other one? Socialist Alliance, where they'll become like bloody campus clubs, but they'll contest basically barely any elections at all. That's the way they always go.
Same deal with the WA Socialist Party launch. So like they appeared on some ballots, I think, last election, some shit like that.
Yeah, and they'll go nowhere.
But yeah.
Okay, so back to Federal One Nation. So talking about that plane, The ABC is pointing out that Pauline Hanson claimed more than $13,000 for 2 trips in October that included fundraising events, attendance at an event connected to Gina Reinhardt, and local party branch openings. Now, that includes flights from Hobart to Brisbane in time to catch a private jet funded by Miss Reinhardt that same day. So, this is the ABC basically saying that despite the fact that Gina Reinhardt is paying for these private jets, One Nation is still claiming a lot of travel allowance. And to be fair, this was actually how Pauline was justifying it. She was like, well, look, okay, Gina Reinhardt's paying for it, but isn't that better than the taxpayer paying for it? But it turns out they're paying for it too. So, yeah.
Oh, well.
Okay, now, one of the high-profile donors who has handed Pauline Hanson $1 million, so he says it's just the beginning of a phenomenon that will eclipse Nigel Farage's ascension in Britain. Wow.
I hope not.
Yeah. Look, I don't know about this. I mean, she's obviously got momentum right now, but Nigel Farage is actually a clever man and quite a charismatic figure. I'm not saying I like him, but, he's a good salesman.
Yeah.
He's a savvy political tactician, I'll say that.
Look, the guy saw through him back in the day. My conversation with him was, interesting, but like, dude, you can. There's a layer of grease to everything about him, unfortunately. You know what I mean by that.
Well, have you seen those cameo videos that he does?
You fucking serious? Oh yeah, Jesus Christ.
I mean, first of all, anyone who does fucking cameo is like, that's basically prostitution as far as I'm concerned. But they've pranked him.
Do it for free.
Time. People will write things that they want him to say, that are like really controversial, and he just parrots them without even bothering to know what they are. Like, one of them got him to say "up the rah." You know what that means? You know what that means?
Yes, supporting the IRA.
That's right. So yeah, he said in one of like a birthday message to someone, who says at the end of it "up the rah," and then later on, that obviously made the news, and he said, "Oh well, I didn't know what it meant." And I'm thinking,
but you kind of fucking should.
Yeah, you're a UK politician. You should know what that means, And you're obviously old enough to remember, like, the Good Friday Agreement and stuff. I mean, Nigel Farage is in his 60s, isn't he?
I was going to say, like, fucking, he references Thatcher, and then probably not one of the most important near-death occasions with Thatcher.
Yeah. But look, but the point remains, like, Nigel Farage is a clever guy. He runs a well-oiled political machine, and Pauline Hanson just is not that. So, okay, fine. She's got that momentum. She may even have, like, billionaire support behind her now, but do they have the competence? I would say probably not. Okay. So just finally on the Greens. Remember, they lost 2 lower house seats in the last election. Even though we were told they were just going to build on that, they actually went backwards. They lost, even the seat of Melbourne was lost. Adam Bant, the former leader, lost that to Labor. So they're looking to kind of reinvent themselves in fighting for the NDIS. So, of course, we know it looks like around about 160,000 people are going to be kicked off of it. Well, the Greens really don't like that. And, it is fair to say they were advocating for an NDIS before it was cool. So, that's part of what they do. Part of the, one of the victim groups that they represent is the disabled. And you even have that fucking disgusting mulatto, what's his name? That cunt in a
Fuck.
wheelchair. With his name. Joseph Steele John. That's it.
Yeah. I was about to just say spiteful mutant and leave it at that.
Well, that is, basically what he is. But yeah, they're kind of going for economic issues again. Last election, they were really fighting for renters' rights, but that didn't really translate into more votes. Because, look, as I've pointed out before, renters traditionally vote Labor. And I actually think that that's one of the big drivers of Labor's modern day support in Australia. The housing crisis has forced so many people into renting that has just naturally created more Labor voters. So, yeah, don't know if we're going to see a resurgent Greens party. Okay, let's go real quick because I've got to leave in like 2 minutes.
Easy.
So I'm just gonna go through the titles on these ones. So Tony Abbott, he will be running for Liberal Party president, and he's going to be running against Alexander Downer, who was the former foreign minister. Apparently a moderate. I never remembered him as a moderate though, because he always called himself a conservative. He wouldn't call himself a liberal. He was the foreign minister that took us to war in Iraq, like full neocon mode. And he was a staunch monarchist as well. So I don't really get why he's the moderate, but anyway. Mark Latham has lost another case to Alex Greenwich and has to pay him $100,000. So the first one that he lost was like a defamation suit that was brought. And then this one was the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal. And so this was for like sexual vilification. So yeah, they found that he was unlawfully vilified and sexually harassed. But it's over the same thing. It's over the cover your dick and shit tweet that Latham made. Now,
completely truthful.
Latham says he's going to contest it. Is contesting both of them. And unfortunately for him, the costs involved are actually said to be over $500,000. So, yeah, the amounts ordered by the court there is just the tip of the iceberg. You'd actually really be fucked over by the legal fees that he'll have to pay. Did you know WA is the only state or territory that does not automatically recognise working with children check rejections from around the country? Yeah, so we're about to start doing that, which, yes, we definitely should. Considering that's like the bare minimum regulation we have in terms of working with children. It's just a stupid check that is basically just a police clearance. Okay. ANCAP safety data. ANCAP. It shows that there has been a 270% increase in large utes bought in Australia since 2019. Yeah, what is with that? I thought the amount of four-wheel drives on the road was bad enough. Now everyone wants like a giant ute.
I don't know.
So even though we're buying a lot of EVs, people, like, when they go for a normal gas guzzler, they seem to want to get some giant fucking car. And I don't see why. If you go four-wheel driving or something, fine. But most of the people who drive those cars don't. And it's hard to see past you at a T-junction.
Oh yeah, fuck no. I'm looking right into your fucking driver's side window.
Okay, so more data on the NDIS. They found that about $3.7 billion of its money was handed out inappropriately last financial year. Geez, I thought it'd be more than that. Okay. Well, look, that's basically it. I've got to tear off to work now. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Check us out at theracer.biz, and we'll see you next week.